All right, good morning, everybody. This is the May meeting of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and you have in front of you, I believe, the minutes from the April 24th regular meeting of the board. Motion whenever anyone's ready.
We'd have a chance for review and I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Frank.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Hi.
All right, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
Sorry, one second. Just make one edit to the minutes, which is that it's not the annual meeting. It's just the
It's
regular
a
meeting.
regular meeting, sorry, that was a typo.
That's a top two.
Okay,
Do we have to redo the motion with the?
we'll just take them as amended. Perfect. Rachel, are you ready for the treasurer's report?
Yes, so on page 2 of the treasurer's report, we made a change from the last treasurer's report. It was inaccurate and now the expected amount of our marketing budget is accurate. So we're still under budget for the fiscal year. So we'll skip ahead to page 4 for the restricted account. At the end of April, the end of month balance in restricted was $528,499.48. Everyone paying on schedule for restricted. I'll skip ahead to page 6 for the UDAG account. At the end of the month, the balance in UDAG was $356,921.10. Nothing major going on in UDAG. Everyone paying right along, paying on time. We'll skip to the unrestricted account. We had that pass through for the SUNY Broome contract. So we got the revenue of that, the admin fee. Percent there. And we'll skip ahead to the mayor's veterans initiatives. There's no activity. On page 9, the triad account, you can see the pass through came in and out of that account to SUNY Broome. And page 11, the grant account, no activity. And on the final page, that brings the delinquency percentage for all loans not designated as non-performing for 0.24.
So I learned this week, the Broome Enterprise Triad means the City of Binghamton, SUNY Broome, and Empire State Development. Is that right?
I think it's
The
the
Urban
Urban
League.
Oh, the
League.
Urban
Technically
League.
the
Yeah.
third
I screwed that up. I learned it and I messed it up. So anyway, yeah, just so folks
point
know,
ESDs are instead.
this is our partnership to support entrepreneurship in the region. And there's only
26.
26 of these around the state. They're kind of cool. The crux of it is a 60-hour course that is administered by SUNY Broome, and we serve as a pass-through, but we're also working with them on trying to figure out how it all integrates into the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the region. So,
Yeah, and it has a good amount of flexibility, which is nice. The 60 hours is the core of the program, but we talked to them about how we can potentially make that more flexible to meet the needs of our local entrepreneurs. They try to let the centers kind of designate what makes sense for them and their community, their entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we'll continue to have more conversations with them, but.
any questions or comments about the treasurer's report? Okay, great, thanks. Moving on to new business. We have 3 resolutions before us this morning. The first one is a resolution of the BLDC authorizing the president to accept an amended agreement with LaChase Construction Services LLC for consulting services related to the renovation of 11 to 13 Court Street.
We had our kickoff meeting with Boscov's that is located at 1113 Court Street about the $10 million renovation project that we are pursuing. LaChase, as noted in the resolution, is already authorized up to $20,000 to essentially protect the BLDC's interests. We don't have significant construction management experience on this team, so bringing in someone from the outside who can really help us understand what's best for the BLDC and what's going to get us the maximum bang for our buck on the project. In that kickoff meeting, it became clear that we were going to need some additional support based on the complexities of the procurement in the project specifically. So LaChase sharpened their pencils and kind of put together a proposal that will carry us through up until construction. And then there's a small allowance for additional construction management support. We may re-explore as we get closer if we determine that we need some more hands-on and some more on-site support there. But hopefully by going through the complicated and rigorous bid process to get all of the contractors on board, we'll be able to stick within this budget. And this goes towards the $10 million project. So ultimately, this is part of our match from the BLDC to support that. And I think this is really going to help us. It certainly makes me feel more confident moving forward with the project that we have somebody who can help us translate between pretty heavy construction and engineering terminology into, you know, what's the best way for us to spend the money as a board.
Questions?
And again, this is adding another 20,000.
This is adding 114,000.
Adding, okay.
So we have the 20,000 base, and then, and I will say, like, I don't think we ever anticipated that 20 would be enough, but we needed to even understand what we were talking about, and trying to get to that point where we understood how the procurement was going to work under our DASNY contract using our BLDC procurement policy and how those things were interplaying. And once we had that conversation and understood where Boscov's was, how much they were going to be able to support us in the development of these documents, it became clear that having a more expanded role for LaChase would really be in the best interest of the BLDC. And again, really just to protect our interests in this entire project.
We have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Eric. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks very much. All right, the second resolution. A resolution of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation to accept the recommendation of members of the Board of Directors to authorize the refurbishment of 26 holiday wreaths by Illuminations Lighting not to exceed $6,890 and retrofit kits and globes from Magna Flood not to exceed $11,450 to be installed on Washington Street light poles.
This is the conversation we've been having for a couple of months now about how the position of this board on supporting some capital improvements and some purchases in downtown Binghamton. So the $6,890 is to restrength an existing wreaths that we own. If you guys talked about this, if you drove downtown last year, you saw the beautiful bright snowflakes that this board approved the purchase of. And then you saw the kind of sad wreaths that before the big bright lights didn't look as sad. But in speaking with Illuminations, who provided us with the snowflake lights from last year, they have the same brightness and warmth available. And this is a pretty cost-effective way. If you've ever looked at commercial and outdoor Christmas decorations, holiday decorations, they are prohibitively expensive, as I think we found out last year in buying the snowflake lights. So this is a pretty good deal. And speaking with both parks and with Illuminations, this should get us through. I mean, the LEDs are not going to go bad. The wreaths themselves will probably fall apart before the LEDs go bad on these. So I think this will be a good long-term investment. And then the Magna Flood is the refurbishment and the retrofit kits for the lights on Washington. This is something the Washington Street businesses have been asking us for pretty repeatedly. When we did the LED conversion across the rest of the city, we did not do Washington Street. They're just a different kind of light pole, more of those pedestrian scale. So this will enable us to match the brightness in the rest of downtown with the LEDs, and also, I think, continue to demonstrate to the downtown business community that this board supports them, as we have done with the support for Clinton Street, and overall, this board's just been a really, really great advocate for our downtown businesses and our commercial districts across the city. And this is just another example of how we're doing that. And certainly I appreciate all of the feedback on this over the past couple of weeks, and I would ask for support in passing this resolution.
All right, thanks. Any questions or comments?
No, other than once you go down Washington Street at night now and look, now that you realize that there's a difference, you can't unsee it. And it is noticeably different than the rest of downtown. It is deserves some brightening up.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments?
Sounds like a good investment.
Appreciate your support.
Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. All in favor?
I,
All right, great. I like those glasses, by the way, Eric. Where did you get them? Are they Warby Parker or are they
Free Roberts,
free? Okay, okay.
yeah, the pre-rack.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Scored
I just wanted to comment on those glasses.
I'm getting old.
The third resolution this morning is a resolution of the BLDC authorizing the president to execute an extension of an option to purchase agreement with Firamar Incorporated for 22 Charles Street and parcels 4, 5, and 6 at 30 Charles Street and the Charles Street Business Park.
We have an active option with Firemar right now. It has reached the end of the original option period, and we just need some additional time to continue negotiations with them about how we will transfer the property. A lot of moving parts on this parcel. We have been approached by Verizon to put a cell phone tower on top of the stack there. We have ever tried to make a phone call on that part of the first ward. I think you can attest to the fact that it is in very serious need of cell service. By virtue of that, we'll also be bringing in some revenue. So we're kind of figuring out how that's going to play with this potential property transfer, as well as the BLDC, as the owner of the building, has been spending some property maintenance and utility money on that site. So just trying to negotiate what that price looks like, what makes sense, how the cash flows and how we meet our ADO requirements for the disposition of property. So it's just extending us to keep us legal. I know Bob fortunately noticed that we had reached the end of this option period. So more to come on this, but that just gives us some additional time
so
to.
you're only really asking for a month. Is that sufficient?
We would like to make it a month to kind of just demonstrate the
pressure on
urgency
everybody.
behind this. Yes, there is a chance we will see this again towards the end of June, but I would hope to have a more substantive update on where we are in negotiations at that time, and not necessarily give us a ton of runway, and really keep the pressure on getting this deal done.
Goal is to have terms set up by the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to highlight, kind of apropos of nothing, but the Verizon tower is really important because one of the things we talk about in economic development is access to broadband. There's all sorts of money out there for how are we connecting broadband to rural communities, but in urban communities, we find that Wi-Fi and broadband is not necessarily the most important thing. It's that access to cellular service. A lot of folks don't have desktop computers. They're working off of their phones. They're interacting with their government. They're paying their bills on their phones. And so having kind of robust cellular service across the city, and especially in areas where we're trying to revitalize and trying to provide people opportunities, is crucially important and something that we don't have a lot of control over. So it's exciting that we were approached and it could hopefully help solve some of these problems in the first ward. That's a whole other.
Can we do a deal with more than one carrier on that?
I don't see why not. We would just have to explore how.
I'm not AT&T, so I'm just wondering.
I'm also, well, we don't endorse any particular
Doesn't help me.
carriers. Again. I do believe the carriers all use each other's towers.
They share, yeah.
Yes.
Any questions or comments about this?
I'll say I've personally seen this company invest in our community, so I certainly support giving them another month to work things out.
Thank you. Any other comments? Motion, please. Motion. Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Frank. All in favor? All right, great. The mayor's not here, and I'm not going to make remarks on behalf of the mayor.
I think you would appreciate that.
I think he would too. Although I do want to say that just quickly that the business plan competition press conference was amazing the other day. The winner is amazing. We've got the 2 runner-ups were fantastic. There was a lot of energy in the room. Peter Newman was there from M&T Bank. You've done a great job with that, Joel, the whole team, but it's really, really cool. And I think seeing all those people up there who have been honorees for the last 15 years is a special thing. So you're to be commended for that. It's a big
Absolutely.
deal. So, well, that those are the mayor's remarks. I'll turn it over to
Yeah.
Sarah.
No, I want to underscore that and Joel is very humble and does not like when we give him all of the kudos he deserves for this particular competition, but it really is, I mean, it is Joel through and through, and he has really shepherded this. And one of the things I really admire about the way that Joel works with entrepreneurs is he has an amazing gut reaction. Like when he meets with an entrepreneur who's going to be successful, he just knows it. It happened with Claw. It happened with ISE. It's really great to see Joel come back from a meeting and kind of his face is lit up, and I know that he's really on to something. So I really appreciate all of his work on that. And really successful, 15 years. We're going to watch a video after the meeting, which will be available on our YouTube as soon as we figure out some licensing on the music. I think we still have it as private until but we'll figure that out. But it will be available publicly, but we'll watch it here, which is just highlighting the last 15 years, some great interviews with our previous winners. And a lot of them are still active in our community, and we're excited to welcome ISE, bringing 5 employees. It's a perfect synergy. Eric can speak to this a little bit more, but 3 years ago, through an EDA funded program called Soft Landings, which is designed to bring foreign companies into America and show them how, soft of a landing they could have moving their company here in the States. And ISE participated in that. And so, a federally funded program that comes to the incubator and has the support from that makes its way over into the city, comes into the business plan competition, and that is creating 5 jobs. I mean, it's kind of this perfect story about why we make these investments, why these things are important. I think a lot of times in economic development, we say it all the time, you throw the line, you try to reel in every lead you can, you lose more than you get. But even getting 1 out of those soft landing cohorts, that's 5 more jobs that are in our area. That's more people moving here. ISE is already looking for housing and is really looking to make a splash and come into our community. So I think it's kind of a perfect story and why the business plan competition and why our entrepreneurial ecosystem is so important. And certainly we appreciate that Eric is sitting on the board now in his many capacities. So the business plan competition, huge success, and excited to show you guys that video.
May I add to that just something? And really throwing this over at you, Joel. This is a chocolate company. Her family grows the chocolate. She's now stationed in Vancouver, Canada. And has enough sales and just received another round of investment that she's able to move. The point I wanted to bring up and why this competition is so great and really the participation of the Binghamton in general. She was in a major competition in New York City, did very well. She was solicited by Cornell's group to go up to Geneva, which kind of in a way is like our food innovation hub for New York State, or Cornell wants it to be. And she went to all those places, and in the end, she chose the City of Binghamton. And one of the clinchers really was this competition, because it was just that little extra push that she needed to decide that Binghamton is where she wants to create this. And I think that is actually a huge success story. An international company could have gone anywhere, but chose Binghamton. So I think that's really amazing.
Onshoring companies in 2025.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you for letting me add that.
No, thank you. Joel, do you have anything to add about the business plan?
It was a great experience, with wonderful working with ISE. I think it's where she's going to locate at 73 Griswold Street. It's just a perfect fit. There's located at that site is BC Provisions, which is distributor for Boar's Head. How shall I say, foods and so forth, to delicatessens and institutional service across upstate New York. They have like 30 employees. You would not think this company is that big. And they then also is Java Joe's Roasting, which is doing a similar business. Brings, coffee beans, roasts them, grinds them, ships them to schools all over America. And so it's just kind of a perfect fit for her, doing something similar with working with 2 other food related businesses that know the ropes of the regulatory climate in the US and New York State. So
we're giving Geneva a run for their money.
Yeah.
The next update that I'll give is just on the DRI. The local planning committee met for the first time last Monday. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 25th. That'll be a local planning committee meeting from about 3 to 4:30. And then we'll have our first public engagement session from 5:30 to 7:30, where we'll actually, the LPC meetings are open to the public, but I will say they're a little bit dry. The only opportunity for public interaction is the last couple of minutes where we do public comment. Public engagement sessions are really where we want to have those back and forth. We want to have the community help us further define the goals and the vision of the Clinton Street corridor, help us understand what they want to see there. We've done significant amounts of public engagement in the development of our initial plan and our applications the past few years. So it's really just building on that. So we'll be giving you guys more information on that and inviting you to attend if you're able. But there'll be other opportunities, both virtually and in person. We'll be trying to get out to a number of events this summer, just having a table out, letting people hear from us about what we do generally, but also trying to solicit specific feedback on the DRI. If anybody is aware of anyone in the first ward who's interested in a project, definitely feel free to send them our way. We're adding people to our email list all the time so that they're getting direct email blasts from our office. The call for projects will open probably right around that June 25th date. We'll be putting out some pre-information so people can start prepping for what they will put in for that. But it'll be a pretty quick window once it opens. Things don't have to be fully fleshed out for people to submit. We are looking for some more ideas, but kind of the crux of it is going to be having some level of site control. Certainly I'm happy to hear what people want, but I'm really going to be looking for actual projects to come in. They just don't have to have every little thing figured out. That is something that the consultants who are on as part of the project will help applicants develop as part of the development of the strategic investment plan. And it's one of the reasons that the call for projects is so short, because we're not expecting people to have every little detail figured out. But we do have a lot of projects in the pipeline just from our application that we are expecting to come in. A lot of great housing projects, facade projects, beautification projects, seeking to activate vacant storefronts on Clinton Street. We have some really great property owners and stakeholders who want to see their buildings activated. And so we're looking forward to working with them to site some more businesses on Clinton Street. It's really becoming a nice little hub down there with Innovation Associates. Alicia Lashare, who serves on the LPC, who is the head of automation, I think, for IA, but located at the Charles Street Business Park, lives in Johnson City, heavily involved with the university. She just posted she's been at IA for 25 years. She's really whip smart and wonderful, but gave us a realistic understanding of what it's like to work in the first ward right now and how there aren't necessarily all of the things that they want to see in the first ward for their employees. I believe they started with 80 employees there. I think she mentioned they're up to 120 on that site. So it's a great opportunity. And I think the more that we can deliver against the vision of Clinton Street, the more we'll continue to attract jobs to that area.
You could, let me just say a couple
Yeah,
things. You could do all of this to attract IA. You already have IA there, number one. Number two, unlike other projects around the state that were awarded DRIs, there are legitimate projects in the pipeline for this. So it's not going to be like we're, going to be out running around trying to find, and 10 million doesn't go very far. So it's important that we're strategic about these investments so that we get the multiplier effect that we're looking for.
Yes, the leverage from the private sector is certainly something that we'll be looking at, and the LPC will be considering pretty closely. Right, do you have anything to add? I know you were on virtual and the sound was a little bit suspect.
Yeah,
You're
so,
on the committee, right?
yeah, so I was asked to serve on the committee with Sarah and joined in on the last session. It was a little difficult to hear and I jumped off because of that, but reviewing the city's application process and all the amazing projects that are poised for that area. I think you hit it on the head, getting the private investment, that multiplier effect, because $10 million only goes so far, but I think everybody's real excited for it, and look forward to this next meeting and seeing how this process evolves and the projects that are going to be proposed, weighing in on those. So
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank's wearing 2 hats. He's got his BLDC hat, but also his Binghamton Onionta Trades hat on in those meetings. So we certainly appreciate his perspective, and I'll be leaning on you to help me provide updates on that throughout the process. I think the couple of the other big things, Boscov's, we're continuing to work with them to develop the scope and put that out for bid. We're wrapping up the garage project, which is only related in the sense of how it hands over from what's the city's responsibility to what's the BLDC's responsibility, kind of in that area between the garage and Boscov's over the men's store, and just making sure that that garage is best serving both our downtown community and Boscov's. There are some additional improvements that folks will see, counters on the first floor to help people understand when there are actually spots available in those short-term parking, directing them to the Henry Street parking specifically for Boscov's once that walkway opens to the second floor, which should be shortly, as well as just getting longer term parkers to park upstairs. If you have not been in there, I certainly recommend it. It's a parking garage, but it's quite nice.
It's very cool.
It's very
Yeah.
beautiful. If you go up to the top, you get like pretty good views of the city. So certainly
Can we have
recommend
parties up
checking it
there?
out. It's in the mix. We're talking about some things. Laz is looking to hold one of their quarterly meetings on site there. So
Oh,
we're
and
looking
that-
at potential
that-
options.
So
Yeah.
the television studio we're gonna build there, is that good?
The Patrick Doyle Memorial.
No, I'm still alive, Sarah, I'm still alive. Memorial, yeah, the rumors of my death are exaggerated.
Oh, man. That really has these kind of two things have taken up a big chunk of our time for the past month or so. I mean, obviously moving things along with a lot of other projects. Those are kind of the big updates, but happy to answer any questions or anything else that I may not have talked about.
Is there any brownfield cleanup work, anything like that going on?
Great question, Eric. The city of Binghamton was recently awarded $500,000 from the EPA to do brownfield assessments. That includes phase 1, phase 2 analysis, reuse planning, community engagement, legal fees. We've seen how this has worked really, really effectively in the Mohawk Valley. They've been able to do some really interesting things with 19A abandonment proceedings, temporary incidents of ownership to get into buildings that are owned by property owners who are maybe not engaged in the process, and being able to do some of those environmental reports for them and kind of encourage and entice them to make investments in the building, demonstrate what resources are available out in from New York State and other sources to support brownfield cleanup. The city of Binghamton is both lucky and unlucky in that we have 3 brownfield opportunity areas. Obviously, we have a history of industrial development here in the area. So there is some contamination, but there's also significant funds and support from both the state and federal government. We've gotten really positive indications from our federal representatives that that money is an important part of the current administration's push for development. So we are not anticipating necessarily cuts to that. I think the fact that these were finally moved forward, it's a little bit of a late announcement this year, is encouraging, and hopefully we will continue to see that pay dividends. But $500,000, we're talking about phase 1, phase 2s. It's a lot of money. Phase 1s are pretty inexpensive, usually less than 10,000, depending on the size of the site and the level of contamination. Those phase 2s can get expensive, but smaller sites, it's a pretty de minimis amount compared to that larger pot. So we're excited to see that happen. We're not 100% sure when we will be getting under contract and actually being able to use those funds, but we can use them on sites across the city, including privately owned, which is really exciting for us.
Right.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate you teeing me up.
Just as a reminder, the end of June is our timeliness thing with HUD. Right now, last estimate, we have about $700,000 to spend to meet it. There's $500,000 in the restricted account, which has been sort of the albatross around our neck for a while. We haven't made a loan using it in over a year. Last one was Claw, which has been doing really well. They're paying it back and everything. So just as a reminder, it's a good idea I think we need to be a little bit more aggressive using that. I think the last one was Red Door. Puerto Roja was the last one that was going to, and then that fell out. Definitely be more aggressive if we can. Obviously one of the turnoffs with the grant is the restrictions. I get that. So if there's any way we can sweeten the deal. The other thing we can do is, as we've done before with the Clinton Street Square, any sort of public projects like that, we can convert to program income, but you don't get that back. It's not done as a loan.
Right.
I mentioned before doing riskier small grants or loans for up and coming businesses, ones who have bad credit for whatever reason. I still think that's a good usage for the monies, so to give people that chance, who have solid business plans. And just one more thing, I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and it's not the first time I've heard this. One thing that we are having in the city are landlords, and don't even think like multifamily, think of like 2-unit landlords. They live in one side, they rent out the other, having issues with, just the ages of the property in the city are really old. Our current rehab projects don't really allow for 2-family. We don't allow for multifamily. I think that it's potential we could use the RL account as some sort of like either a matching grant or a low interest loan for these kinds of landlord types of situations to help renovate their homes. Obviously, we want to put some restrictions in. We could even tie it to, city goals like bringing them up to code, so they're not out of code. And we can put income restrictions, at least initially, on the landlord and the tenant. But I'm hearing this more and more from landlords saying, my tenants trash the place, or, I bought this and it's a retiree who's bought it and they're using it for their retirement. They don't have the money to rehab it. There's no other programs out there. So
Yeah.
This is another thing I've been hearing of. And again, it's something we potentially could do with the RL money. So I'm just putting it out there as a potential idea. I can certainly talk with anyone after if we want to talk about the nitty gritty and some more details, what other restrictions there are. But of course, we don't know what's going to happen with the HUD money going forward. I get that too. But I kind of have to stay the course and we're told otherwise. So just wanted to point that out there.
No, appreciate that, Steve. And I think one of the things we would like to explore, using our COVID CDBG money, we were able to make some micro enterprise loans, which is a really popular program through CDBG. When it's administered at the state level, a lot of communities that are not entitlement communities apply for and administer the micro enterprise grants from the state funds. So that's something that have done a little bit of now, and I think are developing a familiarity with. And I know Rachel is planning on speaking with you about that at some point.
Okay.
If you are talking to landlords that have a second vacant unit, please direct them to the land bank. They have the vacant rental improvement program currently going on. It doesn't work if you have an occupied unit that you need to bring up, but if you have a vacant unit, or if someone has moved out and left it in less than desirable condition, VRIP's or VRP, I guess they're calling it now, is a really great tool. And as I'm sure some of you are aware, Jess Haas, who's the executive director over there, is extremely well versed in all of the state programs. Her compliance is really on point. And so would certainly recommend anyone to be put into that program. They don't have a ton of applicants right now, but they have a couple and they're kind of learning the new process.
Okay.
But yeah, happy to talk about how we could potentially use these funds to continue to support the city.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
I'd like them to be done as loans if possible. I keep refreshing it, but right now the pot's just sitting there.
Yeah, we can certainly. Anything else we get to the order?
Let's adjourn so we can watch the video.
Sounds good.
Okay, motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Gavin. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.